Welcome to I'ma Talk About It. I'm Alicia E., empowerment coach and ancestral healer, and I'm here to teach you how to break generational cycles, self-advocate, and ascend to happiness without the guilt of wanting a better life for yourself. You don't have to choose the same path as those before you. You can choose a better way, your way. Because if we can each heal ourselves today, we can heal the world tomorrow together. Hello everyone, welcome back. I went on a little adventure myself just to let my soul expand and see where it wanted to go. So now I am back and I can't wait to tell you all about my lovely adventures that I experienced on my travels. Today we are going to talk about manifesting your dream life and essentially doing what people like to refer to as the impossible. And I really wanted to talk about this because we tend to put distance between our own capabilities and our desires. And so it's really hard to actually manifest what we are wanting if we're constantly having to be on the run to get it, right? And I also want to talk about in this podcast how important it is to continue to believe in ourselves even when no one is physically there to believe in you, right? Like it's sometimes the hardest thing when maybe your 3D reality doesn't quite match the reality that you are wanting for your future, because we know that we're always supported on the other side, but because we are earthbound folk and earthbound energy, that it can feel really isolating and alone when our physical reality doesn't quite match the life that we are wanting. So we're gonna dig into that today, and I'm gonna give you some tips as well. And I want to start by just explaining, like, what does manifestation or manifesting even mean? Because it sounds really ambiguous. And I also think that people have misused it a lot and made it like overly spiritual, but it's really not the case. Like, manifesting is really about bringing something to fruition. So I kind of see it as bringing something full circle or completing something, not even really completing, because manifesting can be an ongoing thing. But it's really like bringing something that's intangible to tangible, but even in the energetic sense, right? So you can manifest a physical house, you can manifest a really beautiful partnership. You can also manifest new feelings that you are wanting into your life, new emotions of abundance and joy and happiness. So those can also be manifestations, and you can feel them in your physical body, but maybe they started as an idea or a wish or a desire. So really it's like taking your desire or something that you're wanting for yourself and turning it into something tangible. And the reason why, like, there's a lot of stuff you see on the internet and on YouTube about manifestation is because it can be challenging, but I think because people overcomplicate it. It's really not as difficult as we think, but there's like an abundance of information that can really confuse you and put you into a doing state. Like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this task, I'm going to blah, 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 instead of it being like a flow of perhaps doing some things, but an energetic ascendance or ascension in junction with you going about your life with aligned action, right? So that's very different than creating a list for yourself and checking the boxes, and that's how you're going to get your manifestation. That's not always the case, because you can literally drive yourself into a wall with a checklist and forget about your own energy, right? And manifestations rely heavily on the energy that you hold, along with many other things, but it's actually a lot more simple than people think. But I want to go over a few things that can make it challenging for you to pause to hold a positive frequency, because I want you to be able to recognize when you might be doing these things or when other people might be doing these things. Not that you have to help coach them, but it's important for you to also know what situations you are getting yourself into. So the first one is having a very conditioned ego, right? So the ego likes to hold on to old memories, painful pasts, anything that it needs to help you survive. Like, it's very primal. So it's not necessarily going to always be the most rational. Like, you have to decondition your mind so that it goes into a different flow when you go into change. Like, maybe now when you go into change, you see it as an opportunity, whereas before, if something in your life would change, you would see it as a hurdle, or you may complain about it, or nothing goes right? So paying attention to how conditioned your ego might be. How are you actually viewing the world? How is your ego taking in information and keeping you from opening the doors for yourself? Because the ego, while it is a part of our body, it is not our energetic essence, which is really who we are in and of ourselves, right? Like, that is why we can talk to spirits. That is why we can communicate with like angels or whatever it may be, whatever your spiritual practice may be, is because we are all essentially energy. Everything's made of energy, even on a very atomic level. Everything vibrates at a certain frequency and creates energy. So when you realize that the ego, which, can't even be measured, is not who you are, you can really begin to liberate yourself from your conditioned ego and find a better path to holding on to your positive frequency. And I also just want to say that, like, you can call your ego whatever you want to call it. You can call it your negative thoughts. You can do whatever you want. But notice when you might shift into the mindsets that can be really harmful to you. That is going to be your ego. That's your ego. Not saying the ego is always bad, but the ego can be kind of a devil's advocate. So just make sure that you're paying attention to that. Another point would be our generational trauma and our ancestral trauma. So if you are not creating space to really let go of traumas you may have had in your childhood, even as a teen, as an adult, you will have a harder time letting go or making room for positive frequency energy to help your manifestations. That is why I work so quickly with my clients, and I work very deeply with them on their trauma and their ancestral lineage and everything like that, because it makes it almost impossible for your future to come forward when you're carrying energetic and sometimes physical weight of thousands of people who are attached to you. It kind of masquerades as like, yeah, maybe it's my intermediate family, but it's much, much, much more than that. And so I work really closely to make sure that, my clients can really let go and make peace with those traumas, and liberate themselves and their ancestors so that they too can move forward into whatever manifestations that they're wanting, because we forget that our ancestors also had dreams and aspirations, and sometimes they lived through us. And so maybe some of them wanted to travel or be an artist or make music. And so when we heal, we can also help them heal and bring to fruition their manifestations as well, right? Like, there's a reason why a lot of spiritual people are like, ooh, that energy doesn't belong to me, it must be an ancestor, right? That happens. It's like a thing. So it's important to pay attention to that as well. And then another one is your environment. So people and places, your physical space. Always make sure that your space is clean, but pay attention to who the people are in your life and how their ego works and how their energy works, especially if you're an empathetic person or you're really spiritual, you feel energy. You probably need to be around less people sometimes if you're working on manifestations, because you will likely take on all of the energy around you. And so you just want to be really mindful of that. For instance, like I went to Houston and I was looking at places, and I walked into one that I really, really liked on paper. But then when I got there and was feeling the energy of the city itself, because I'm also very energetic, I am also very psychic, and I'm a medium and like all sorts of things. So the minute I like walked in there, I was like, oh no, honey. I was like, this ain't it. I was so overwhelmed. It felt like I could hear everything, feel everything. And I was like, how am I supposed to rest here? There's no way I can rest here. So really paying attention to that, right? Like, why do people go camping? Why do they go out to the woods? Why do they stick their feet into the water or bathe in the water? It's because there's a different frequency there. So pay attention to where you're at when you're doing your manifestations. Like if you need to go to the water, if you need to get away from people, so you can find peace within yourself and align your energy, then I would definitely do that. Another point would be like, understanding that we're also taught to be on the lookout instead of trusting, right? Like that's heavily connected to our ego. So we constantly scan our lives for threat. Again, that is the ego. So we have a hard time trusting something we can't see, something we can't always make sense of. And manifesting requires a lot of trust and a lot of visualizing and being in the frequency of your manifestation. So if you have a hard time doing that, it may be blocking your manifestation as well. And then just 3 more points for things to look out for. So the first one is low self-worth. Another one is low self-belief and trust in your own capabilities. Another one is low self-esteem and low empowerment. So these ones are all intertwined. And I took these like straight out of my program because this is usually why people come to me. So low self-worth, not realizing how valuable you are and what you actually deserve. So if you believe that you are not worthy of love, of happiness, of wealth and abundance, then those things will not be able to find you because they cannot be in your energy. Like your energy blocks it because you can't hold it. You don't hold the frequency. You don't have the capacity to open your energy to receive it. So it's just going to float around you and wait for you to really be open to it. And same thing with self-belief and trusting in your capabilities. If you don't believe in yourself, your manifestations will also not come true because you have to be able to trust yourself that you are making the right decision and that everything always works out in your favor. And then the last one is low self-esteem and empowerment. So those are all, again, intertwined, but the empowerment is really important because that is the motivation, that is the momentum, that is like dotting your I's and crossing your T's. So that is really saying to yourself, like, this is what I want. This is what I'm calling in. This is what I'm going to go after in an aligned way. That doesn't mean you shift into doing all the things. It means this is what you want for yourself and this is what you are doing for yourself, right? Like it's a different sort of empowerment, and it kind of also goes into what are you willing to do for yourself, like the boundaries, speaking to people, creating space for yourself, like having empowered and aligned action to support your manifestations. Because I think people fail to realize that, sure, you can light a candle and try and manifest money. And then if your mindset's all junky, how are you going to hold the money? And then if you have friends that like to take from you or borrow money from you, even though you don't want to give it to them, where goes your money, right? So you have to kind of pay attention, or maybe like don't have the best relationship with your bills. Like You have to be empowered with how you are leading your own life so that your manifestations can continue to move forward. So it's really a balance of those things. So I just want to share really quickly 3 more points on what you can do to actually begin your manifestations and start the work. So the first one is get clarity on your emotions. This is a huge one. This is what I teach to my clients all of the time at the beginning of the program. These are just tiny tidbits. Like, we dig into it for 6 months because this stuff is old, it's deep, it's very heavily ingrained into our life. And so we have to decondition ourselves from these ways of thinking. So when you think of emotions, like, are you able to regulate your own emotions? Can you tell what might be fact or might be fiction? I like to say, because someone taught me, like, assuming makes an ass of you and me. So how many dumbass stories are you telling yourself about the reality around you? Oh, that person hates me. Like, do they hate you, or are you just telling yourself a fucking story right now, right? Fact or fiction? Are you projecting your thoughts and emotions onto someone else when maybe those aren't true? Are you flying through time and thinking that you're not going to be able to achieve everything that you want? Like, those are all rooted in emotions that may not be regulated very well, or maybe you have unnecessary expectations. So if you're going to manifest, you might as well manifest that $5 billion mansion, and then you better look a certain way, and then you better have a photo on Woman's Magazine. Like, you know what I mean? Like, when are you being unrealistic and unnecessary with your expectations instead of just manifesting what you are truly desiring, that your soul is desiring, and that you're wanting in your tangible life? So, okay, the second one, wait, let me read my note. Yeah. Oh, another one I wanted to say for clarity on emotions. This one's a big one just because it's been on my mind. So experiencing the pain of heartbreak and trauma. So sometimes we can try to be manifesting something that we really want from a place of pain. And we don't realize we're doing it. So pay attention to times when you're like, okay, like, I'm going to manifest this. I'm never going down this path again. Know if you're manifesting from a place of love, like, I love myself so much to never do this to myself again, and you're going to heal, you're going to release, and then you're going to manifest, versus coming from a place of pain and actually feeling angered about it. You won't manifest it. It won't come to you. It will not. I'm telling you, it will not, because you do not hold the frequency. So it won't come to you. You'll actually probably, in the hoodoo world, cross your roads. You will cross your roads and make things that you're wanting and desiring in your life harder to get to you. So pay attention to that and get clarity on your emotions. Another one is get clarity on your desires. So you must connect to the higher frequency of your highest self. It's like getting on an elevator to your greatness, right? So you have to understand what your true desires are, not like tiny desires. I don't know how to explain it, but if you're spiritual, you'll get it. So think about, like, what truly makes you happy, truly happy, even if it's so small, right? Like, I was talking to a friend and they were feeling really worried because they weren't sure where they were going to go on their path. And I was like, you know what? Go without judgment. Try a million things. Like, if you want to try painting, paint. If you want to try tarot, do tarot. If you want to run a marathon, go run outside. If you want to put your skates on, do it. If you want to, like, be the best, I don't even know what, like, go try. Just try different things until you realize what makes you happy, or think about things that you did when you were younger, right? So that your energy and your body can begin to experience new sensations and new frequencies. That's what's going to be important. So if you've never manifested before, even if you've been manifesting, but you want to try leveling up your manifesting, this is a great thing to do, because those new sensations and those new frequencies will allow you to recognize larger manifestations, or recognize what you want and what you don't want, right? So Maybe you thought this whole time you wanted to manifest a new car, but then you started to do all these new things and you're traveling the world. And now you're like, wait, I want to travel the world and not pay for it. You're like, that hits different. So now you're recognizing the frequency of the car versus the frequency of traveling around as a blogger and not having to pay for anything, right? So then as you go to manifest, that is a frequency that you can live in from your day-to-day life, or if you're doing candle work, visualizations, whatever it is, because manifestation looks different for everybody. So another step, which is my final one that I will give you today, is give your happiness space to expand and forget about the direction. So just follow the flow and go with the motherfucking wind, okay? There is no right or wrong way to find your happiness, to discover your happiness, to be in your happiness. Just let it expand. I experienced this a lot on my trip recently. I only planned a few things. I packed the night before. I didn't worry too much. I wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna set time to go to the museum. It wasn't like that. I was like, today, if I want to sleep, I'm gonna sleep. Today, if I'm gonna order food, I'm gonna order food. Today, I'm gonna see my friend if I feel like it, and I'm gonna go to the concert, and I'm gonna flow, and I'm not gonna worry about what I'm wearing. You just go with the flow and allow your happiness to really expand, be expansive, feel expansive. We were all dancing in bliss. There were moments that I cried because I was so happy. I was enjoying the sunset. When you get into that energy, you'll start to see and feel your manifestation starting to come true. It's the wildest thing. So trust me, go with the flow, have fun, and understand that when you really expand your happiness, you will go towards a completely different community, and you'll find that they'll help you manifest your dreams as well, and you'll start manifesting together, right? That's a really powerful manifestation when your community, your friends, the people you love have the same frequency, and you just manifest back to back to back to back to back, and they're cheering you on, you're cheering them on, and it's you can literally, as I said, do the impossible because you're leading with support and love and excitement. You feel safe. You trust them, right? And, one of the other things was before my trip, I was like, oh, I really want to bring one deck, but I don't know what deck. And then my good friend Emily messages me a day later and is like, hey, I've got this deck that I ordered and it's for you, I'm pretty sure. And I was like, oh, for me? And she was like, yeah, I'm gonna send it to you, I'll ship it today. And I was like, okay. And she shipped me the deck, and I opened it and I started bawling because it was an ancestor deck. And I was just like, ugh. When you and your friends get together and you have that high frequency, literally anything is possible. So understand that whatever you are desiring in life, no matter how big or small, there is no big and small, just no matter what you want to do, it is completely possible. It's fully possible. The life that I've been living the last 6 months has been wild. I met the best people, had the best pop-ups. I feel successful. I'm just really grateful. My case is going along. I've got a community now around me to help out, and now I can help other people because this case is much bigger than just me. So understand that if you believe in yourself, it'll all work out in your favor. So again, just to wrap up those 3 points, get clarity on your emotions, get clarity on your desires, and give your happiness the space to expand. So never stop dreaming, my friends. Keep believing and allow yourself to be in that energetic shift, okay? I know it feels funky at first, but just allow yourself to do it. And that is a wrap for this episode. I just want to mention to everybody that if you have not booked a Fly With Me session, you definitely should. 60 minutes of me helping you ascend and heal and grow. It's an amazing way to also help your manifestations as well. You meet your inner child. We go over tarot. And I'm also offering tarot readings again for ancestor work. So if you're wanting that as well, you can find them on Instagram, but I'll also drop it into the show notes. And I've got some fun stuff coming down the way, including an ancestor workshop, which is going to be really, really fun. And on that note, that is it from me, my friends. Thank you for showing up for me, showing up for yourself, and really showing up for the collective. I know that many of you also give money and support this podcast. No, it does not go unnoticed, and I love you all so much. It really, really helps my business and helps other people because I can create a lot more and share it with the world. So if you have friends and family who you think would love this podcast, please share it with them. Let them enjoy some wisdom. And if you have questions or comments or want me to talk about anything on the podcast, please always feel free to send me a message and say, hey, Alicia, I'd really like to learn about this. And I'll be like, okay. And it's also great for me because I get to know you a lot better and I get to share stuff as well that is going to be really supportive to you. So as I say, quiet mouths don't get fed. And on that note, that is it from me. I love you all. I will be talking to you soon, and keep me up to date on all of your manifestations. Hey, if you're ready to ascend to happiness and live the life you've always wanted, join me in my Empowered Living Facebook group for socially conscious healers, witches, and spirituals, and sign up to get my free Empowered 5 Practices to Ascended Happiness guide. It's helped others expand their consciousness and soar beyond sight, sound, and imagination in just one day. It's the catalyst you need to embrace your magic and change the world. Just click the link in the show notes, and I'll see you in the group next time.